I can do it. Okay, cool. Hey everyone, welcome to React Denver, November 15th, 2022. Happy to see you all. I miss you all and hopefully see you all again in person at different junctures. Today I have a talk about developing the developer experience. So there'll be the littlest bit of React in this talk, which we're always good with. And this is something that I've done a lot with in my career in different ways. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Yeah, let's get rolling. My name is Will Klein, by the way, if you didn't know who I was. Let me start talking about the stages of a developer experience developer. I didn't think of that developer experience developer part. That was not intentional, but a DX developer. And if you didn't hear of DX before, I don't know how you wouldn't, but DX is developer experience. And it's kind of something that is become a bit of a buzzword. I think rightfully so. There's actually a lot of, I think more startups and companies in the DX and developer experience space, like developer tools and different things that we use as developers. There's more, I think, innovation happening right now than I've seen in a long time. And I think that's really like overdue. And
Hey, Will,
yeah,
reshare your screen.
really? Okay.
Sorry. Yeah,
No, you're good.
when I reclaimed, I
That's
stole
why
it.
I said don't stake it. Don't take it back. That's all right. I got you. Cool.
There you
So
go.
yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff happening. And a lot of my friends work in this space now. I know there's one of our attendees right now works at a really great place that does this type of stuff as their job, and at least one person. And I actually get to do this, speaking of myself just a little bit, tiniest bit, I guess I should. I am a developer advocate now, working on a design system team. And I've been focused mostly on developer education and support, and reaching out to people that I used to be, like product developers, and helping them use the design system. And I'm starting to lean back into developer experience a bit, and kind of split my time 50-50 between sort of developer education and developer experience. So that's my current aspiration. But going back to stages of being a DX developer, this is something that, I hope that everyone is going to kind of develop themselves in a way, progress for themselves in their own way throughout their career in different ways. And I'm going to talk about that in a way of like, you don't all have to go and become the person that wrote VS Code or TypeScript, but there's other things that you can do that are much more achievable and much more practical and much more like in your wheelhouse with what you care about, that I am sure is going to come up in your career. And we're going to talk about that. So stage one of a journey to becoming a developer experience developer would be just being a developer. And this stage is really, this is everybody. This is where you're just taking everyone else's advice of what is in your developer experience. You jump on a project, you pull down, you use the editor everybody else is using, you run the ESLint config everybody else is using, you just go with everything else that everybody else is kind of handing to you. And we all start here, and this is a great place to be, frankly. It's where everyone starts. And you hopefully, I think in 2022, we have some pretty amazing tools. If anything, there's more innovation happening in like compilers and bundlers and Rust-based tools and all that stuff than the framework side now. And I'm kind of like patiently waiting to see how some of those developments develop. Geez, I'm gonna say this word a million times. Does anyone see that Steve Ballmer video where he streams developers? I'm just playing that in my head right now. It's on repeat. But there's all this stuff happening, and we don't like need to like always care like, oh, what's the latest tool to use, or how does it work? That doesn't matter at first. And that's I just want to get that out of the way and like be super anti-gatekeeping about this. That if you're a senior developer and like you don't really care too much about tools, and you haven't needed to, and your team's fine with what somebody else set up, then you're doing fine. And this is just where we all begin. And I'm going to go back just a little bit here. For me, there's this project, this story I have with the Ramda project. And I've actually never really used Ramda or installed it even. Maybe I installed it once. But Lambda is a functional library for JavaScript programmers, and I'm pretty sure somebody on this call is going to talk about that once. And the funny story about this is, if I go to the contributors here, there's two people that are notable to me. The first is Buzz the Cafe and Cross-Eye. This is Michael and this is Scott, and they are two magnificent folks that I got to work on a team with back in 2011, 2012, and 2013. And this is when I got to learn JavaScript. And when I joined that team, they told me what editor I should use, and everything was set up, and they gave me version control, and they had JS hint set up, and all the tooling. I was just taking their advice. And I took a lot of their advice. And these two folks in particular, Michael and Scott, they actually taught me a lot about functional programming and how to write code that's more testable. And I learned so much from them. And this is just the phase of my career. I was just soaking it up like a sponge, taking all their advice. And I didn't know, but I was like I knew, but I was on a team of really good developers at a really otherwise boring company. And I think that's fun that it was like this place I never wanted to work at. Seemed like the most boring type of stuff is insurance. And I was working, I just found my way backwards onto this team, and I was like surrounded by amazing people that were like teaching me all this stuff. They weren't the only folks that taught me a lot, but just they were just some notable folks I thought I'd pull up. Yeah, so that's stage one, is you're just taking advice. Stage two is where it starts to get interesting. And this is where you start to open up your curiosity to, oh wow, what else is out there? Like, what's this new thing I'm hearing about that so-and-so is tweeting about, or this person that wrote one tool I like is building another one now. So this stage two is when you start to just really search out other things and start to research them. Maybe you start to try them out for yourself. And this is a really great place to be as well. And I think I thought of this, oh no, I've got ads. I thought of this podcast I listened to called JavaScript Jabber, and this is back in 2013. This is in my last month of that insurance company. And I was listening to this podcast with Nicholas Zakis, and he's somebody that wrote probably the only JavaScript book I ever paid attention to, which was JavaScript Patterns. I think it was something like that from Bio O'Reilly. It's behind me somewhere. And he talked about building a new tool in this podcast called ESLint. And what caught my attention was that it was pluggable. And he pitched this notion, this idea that you wouldn't just install your linter or your tool, you would actually configure it and extend it. And that seemed really cool to me, because the team I worked on, in the project I worked on, they had their own JavaScript framework. And if you think it's hard working on a project where like they have a JavaScript framework, imagine you're working on a project where they've written their own JavaScript framework. And there's all these things that are kind of just tribal. There's all this tribal knowledge about how to use it. And this still exists with React even. But we have some better tools now, like ESLint plugins, to kind of share those with each other. So back then we didn't have that. And I was like, oh, wow, like imagine if we had our own ESLint rules for our own project that had all these safeguards in place that were specific to our project. So that was just this idea I had. And ESLint was one of those things I was like, oh, that sounds really neat. And I didn't use it for a bit. So let's go back to what I was talking about. So that's stage two. We're starting to learn about new things. Maybe we're listening to podcasts. Maybe we're going to a meetup like this one. And there's the podcast I just pulled up. So stage three is where it starts to get interesting. And this is where you're not just kicking the tires on stuff and trying things, but you're starting to make decisions. And I want to throw out there that you don't have to be a senior or a lead dev to start doing this. I found myself in a position in 2015 where we were using JS hint, and we started to use React. It might have been 2014 actually. And we started to use React, and that meant using Babel. And it meant that we also got to use some newer syntax, which was really exciting because JavaScript got really fun right around 2014, 2015 with ES6, ES 2015, if you may recall. That's when things started to actually go in JavaScript. And one of the gotchas was the tool we were using, JSHint, wasn't made for that. It didn't understand the syntax. So it broke. It broke instantly. So we didn't have it set up on our new repo that had React set up. And I was like, hey, maybe we should move to a new tool that actually supports that. And I looked at ESLint, that thing I listened to a podcast on 2 years before. I was like, hey, I think this would be really cool. I think it was a year and a half at this point. And I was like, this would be really cool to use. And I proposed it to my team, and surprisingly, they agreed. I mean, I think it wasn't surprising. It made a lot of sense to people. And I think they're already curious about it. A lot of other people at stage 2 where I had already heard about it. And so I got to suggest that, and I got to set it up. That was pretty cool. And I think there's a lot of tools we have now, but there's always gonna be opportunities to set up the new thing, to migrate to something that's got better support, that works faster. And I've seen like junior level developers have an impact and do that type of thing on their teams. So that's a really good thing to know that, at some point, I think everybody ends up in this situation where they have the opportunity to make the decision. They might maybe not ask, but everybody has that opportunity to say, hey, I think this would be better. Can I have some time to look at this? Hopefully not going to go rogue and just do it on the weekend, like a, classic 10x developer or whatever, and have a PR on Monday. Never done that too much. Yeah, so that's stage 3 is you get to start making decisions. You get to start actually not just trying stuff, you start to bring them in. And that was ESLint. That's what we brought in. ESLint's fantastic. This is their homepage. I think it's funny. I noticed today the pluggable linting utility, pluggable. Yeah, that's that magic word I really love, for JavaScript and JSX. It was neat that drew that on there. It's pretty key with the way JavaScript is these days with JSX. I think everybody in the React meetup is okay with that. Not everybody is in other ecosystems. I will plug this word again one more time, pluggable. Of all the tools I've seen and heard about, whether they are pluggable and extensible is a huge factor. That is, I think, should be a top criteria when you're evaluating tools to figure out, is this something that is going to really have legs and have a community grow up around it? Anything that has a good plugin ecosystem, a good extension ecosystem, or documentation and support, that will develop into an ecosystem. And that will develop into a community of people that will potentially become maintainers of that project. So those are things that really help any project really take off. And that's incredible. All right, where do we go from here? So stage 4. Stage 4 is where this is what I'm really here for. This is where it gets really fun. It's where you start to extend the tools that you're using. And this is what I found myself quickly doing back in 2015. Same situation. We didn't write our own framework at this company I was at, but we had like 3 frameworks. And we had a bunch of JavaScript, and I'm trying to remember, there was some code that we had that was like just really gnarly. And one of them was very specifically, it was making network requests to an API with a page size set in the options of the network request. And the page size, for some reason, was the actual value in JavaScript was infinity. And it was literally requesting all the records on these APIs anytime like these network calls are being made. It was causing us some headaches. We realized we shouldn't do that anymore. But when you have code that's already in your code base, it's not as trivial as just gutting it and changing it. There's UX to adjust and things like that. So we had this very not unusual situation where we had code we didn't like that we couldn't just get rid of overnight. So I said, aha, here's an opportunity to write a custom rule for our project. So I wrote this rule that would, let's see, I'm just going to jump to it. So here it is. No, that's not it. I wrote this rule, and it wasn't on NPM right away, but it was basically to disallow a method being called on an object. So we had like an API object that we'd import, and then we'd call like request on it, right? So I made sure that, oh, this is totally different, actually. I forgot my other example. The first rule I wrote wasn't this, actually. It was actually looking for something like this, looking for API.request. And then it was looking at the options object, and it was looking for the page size key on object literal and looking at the value, making sure it wasn't infinity. That was it. That was it. But then we had another thing where we're like, oh wait, this other thing we want to deprecate. And we couldn't delete it overnight. And so it turned into this, where we had some object and some property on it. And we wanted to disallow accessing that property. And we did this by like setting it to warn, so it wouldn't break the current code. And then we'd, get those warnings down to 0 and eventually turn into error, so it would never happen again. And we also configured our linter so that if you introduced an additional warning above the current threshold, it would error. So it was a really good, those are just some techniques we had to like make sure that we got our code better as we went along. A little aside about code renovation there, and refactoring and all that. But we wrote these ESLint rules, and I'll just say, I don't have a degree. This is stuff that they kind of, how these things work. They teach you in computer science degree programs. And I went and like learned how to do this from the web and resources that were out there. And what shocked me was actually much easier than I expected. And something I found about a lot of these things of like, how does this tool work? How does that tool work? How does Webpack do things? If you start to look into it, and it can be a little tricky to find what's the right resource to make it easier to sort of onboard. But once you find that, it's like, oh, this is like stuff I sort of already know, and it's just arranged in a certain way here, and it's actually not that hard. And we're gonna come back to that and really dig into it. Like that part. We're gonna write a ESLint rule. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, so I showed you that. And the funny thing about this thing was I didn't just make this for my team. And I was like, hey, like this thing is actually pretty generic. And I went and made a plugin and put it out in NPM. I actually forgot I put it out in NPM until an hour ago. And I was like, oh wait, I published this. Cool. And there was something else. There was around the same time, somebody else said, hey, I wish I had a rule for certain disallowing properties from being called an object. That sounds familiar. And I commented on this, like, hey, I actually wrote something like this at work, and we talked, and I put up a PR, and I got busy, but fortunately somebody else named Eli White went and picked it up, and that's in ESLint core now. So no restricted properties. I wrote the initial implementation, and Eli wrote a bunch of better tests and wrote the schema for it, and it's evolved since then with a bunch of other 11 contributors now. So that was 2015. I was still a mid-level developer when I did that. I did get promoted pretty shortly after, though. That's quite the coincidence. Kind of promotion fuel if you want to have an impact. That's a whole other thing, is working on tools and bringing in better tools and making the tools better for your team is a really fantastic way to help your team. I like the idea of a 10x developer not being the person who writes 10 times as much code as everyone else, but the person who's surrounded by 2x developers. They've effectively 10x their team by making everybody else more effective because they went in and wrote better types in their project, so the TypeScript was easy to work with. They brought in ESLint, they brought in some other tools, they made the build much faster, they fixed CI. Those are the things that anyone can do. Anyone can do with just a little bit of research and enough determination. Like anyone can do those things and make their team much better. In stage 5, this is like, where do you go beyond when you've written a plugin and helped your team with these things? I want to say this looks different for different people. Maybe you end up at a company that works on tooling full time. Maybe you're a developer experience engineer. Maybe you're a DevTools engineer. Maybe you're working on VS Code or extensions for VS Code. Or another way this could look is you end up sharing and encouraging, sharing with others how to do these things. It's kind of where I am. I've been doing this, talking about this for 7 years now. I gave my first conference talk in 2015, and it was on writing an ESLint rule, and that was pretty cool. And I've come back to this in different ways in the last 7 years, and I'm going to continue to evangelize it and encourage people to learn how to pick this up and apply it to their daily work, because everybody can apply this to their daily work. And there's other versions of this, I'm sure. Maybe it's testing out these tools. Maybe it's filing issues on these tools and just making the docs better for these tools. And I'll tell you, as I worked on this earlier today and prepped a little live code, I found stuff in the docs, in the tools we use, including actually the React docs. I'll just say that I was like, oh, this is not what it should be. This is not leading people in the right direction. And there's opportunities everywhere to improve the developer experience. That isn't just writing the code. It's improving the documentation, writing guides, whatever it could be. All right, cool. Now we're not done. Where's my other slide? Where's my other slide? I have another slide here. It's missing. It doesn't matter. We're gonna live code now. Let me bring up my editor, and I set up a little project. I used Create React App, nice dev tool there. That brought in React for me. And the funny thing was, I was like, I actually don't want to be on React 18 for some reason. I wanted to be on React 17, so I had to like go and fix that. But basically, I've got a Create React app. You'll recognize it because it's got these React scripts from React scripts. And let me make this bigger, make it as big as possible. And I got a README here. That's a little guide to make sure we know what we're doing. There's some other stuff I brought in here. I brought in a component library because it's got some nice examples that'll help and help me kind of show off some things. And so that's I work at Workday. I work on Canvas Kit. It's just this open source component library. I'm not telling anyone to use it. It's not for that purpose necessarily. But there's 3 packages here. We happen to have a main package, and then we have a preview package and a labs package. And that's just kind of a side pro tip. We have things that are like, it's really stable, and some other things that are like, we're not sure if we got the API right, or the design or the accessibility might have a bug in this browser and voiceover on this. And, we're still maturing those things. So we'll put things in labs or preview depending on the maturity of how far along we've gotten the API and the design and all those things. So we won't make a breaking change in the main package, but we will in labs or React. So it lets us be a little bit more nimble and kind of open with like, this is probably, you can use it, but it's like, we might have to change something. We'll let you know if we do. Other than that, that's kind of the project. I'll show you the app.js. This has just got some components imported in different ways. It's got some buttons imported, a flex component, an horizontal stack, some icons, and the side panel component. And what it looks like is, and this is super non-functional, it doesn't do anything. There's the sidebar component here. That's the sidebar. And then there's just some buttons here, primary buttons and secondary buttons and buttons with icons. It doesn't even matter what this is. This is just some code so we can play with stuff. With all that said, what was I going to do next? I'm going to go back to that README because that's why I created the README. Where's this code? There it is. README. What are we going to do first? Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So let me show you something. Canvas at Workday. So this is our documentation for our design system, making everything bigger. And we just released a new major version 2 weeks ago. And we have an upgrade guide. So I'm just going to be like, I'm a plain old developer using this library, building products at Workday, and I'm using their library. I'm going to go to their upgrade guide and see what I need to do. So this is our upgrade guide. And the first thing here is pretty cool. And this is a dev tool that I'm a huge fan of. This is our code mod package. And this is, I think, one of the most underutilized tools across the JavaScript ecosystem. I would say this includes React. And what I think is kind of missing in even the current version of React with code mods support. And something that if you ever find yourself maintaining a component library, and if you're at a React meetup, there's a good chance in the next 5 or so years, you find yourself in this position one time or another. I did find myself in this position. Being able to write code mods so that people could just run a script to update, I don't know, maybe hundreds of lines in their code base in just by running a script is kind of magical. And when we dropped 8.0 2 weeks ago, our version 8, this was pretty cool. We had an announcement saying the impact to developers, and it's right here. Where's the release? Canvas Kit 8 release. There's a table saying outlining the developer impact. And there's a bunch of things in here, including upgrade to React 18, which you'd think would be a lot, but it's none. It's none for all of these things, including a bunch of breaking changes. This is a big table. There's a lot of details here, but the impact is none, and it's low for one thing, just one thing. And this table made me so happy because we did a lot in this version, and we added a lot of things. And part of why there was too much impact is there was a lot of additive things like new responsive utilities, grid component, text components. But there was no impact on all these other breaking changes because we had code mods for it. And we're like, if people can run a code mod and they don't have to think about it, the impact is nothing. And we're really happy about that. So back to our guide, back to being a normal developer. We have documentation here saying, hey, just run the code mod. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to actually upgrade this little project that is on version 7 and show you what that looks like. I'm just demoing the tool right now, or demoing code mods to show you what that looks like. So here I am. I'm also going to show you, just so you know where we're at. Oh, did I kill the server? That's funny. I had that cached. Go back to Warp. By the way, DevTools, I started playing with this terminal called Warp. And the last day, I signed up for in April. I didn't do anything with it. I installed it yesterday, or I updated it yesterday and started using it. Ran the actual download, and I've actually been loving it. I've been wondering what it'd be like to present with it. So Command K, clear everything out. I just want to do the git status, git log. Yeah, so I just got this component, I initialized create React app, set up some simple components, and I wrote some stuff in a README in case I get lost. That's where we're at. I also, some of the simple components was from Canvas Kit. Dev service running. If I check the app, I'm gonna refresh. Oh, that was fast. It's still good. Okay, cool. So back to the command line. There's a couple ways to run a code mod. And the funny thing is we have this issue right now with NPX where it's kind of working sometimes and not. It wasn't working on my machine. So if I go back to the guide, it actually says to run this. Let's try it. Let's see what happens this time. And so it's running this code mod package using NPX, which is going to like sort of make it easier to not have to globally install everything. It's going to run the V8 set of code mods for version 8. And then I'm targeting my source directory. That's where all my code is that I actually care about. Do be careful with code mods. If you ever run them on the root of your project, often they'll just run on node modules, and that's not what you want. I've had people say, hey, my code mod took forever. It's still going after an hour. It's like, you probably ran out of node modules. And yeah, this didn't work for some reason. So we actually have seen this happen. So we actually have documentation here saying, hey, no, just go run it this way. So we actually, I'm actually going to install it. I'm not going to follow the directions all here. I want to think about what I'm doing as I'm talking about it. So I'm going to use npm. I was not installing Yarn for this project. I'm going to install, what was it? Install. Oh, there it is. It's giving me my history. This is good about work. It's giving me my history about what I want. How do I select this? I'm still figuring that out. Shift tab, enter. Nope, that's not it. It's this one. Nope, it's not that one. Sorry. Oh, -D. There it is. Okay, good. I got it. I had to go up arrow, then enter. All right, cool. So now it's installing as a dev dependency this code mod. And what we basically said was, hey, if that npx thing didn't work, go and install as a dev dependency using Yarn or npm, and then run the code mod that way. So let's keep going with that. Cool. So that installed. And so now we're going to, how do we run this? Node. I love this history. Oh, there we go. Oh, it didn't like that. I tried to run node modules bin canvas kit code mod, and I was mad because because I didn't run it on a target src. Cool. We've also had this where people run the code mod on. Yeah, I talked about that. Did that work? Hang on. Live codes are fun, right? And if anyone, this is super informal. People have questions. I meant to say this earlier. If people have questions, just interrupt me. Or ideas of why this might have failed applying. I know I saw this earlier today, and I'm trying to think what I did. When you're not sure though, like just nuke everything and reinstall node packages. Has anyone ever done that today? Yeah, I do this. I don't know if it's because of what I do maintaining a library now, but I run that at least once a week. At least once a week. It's like node modules is in a weird state. I don't know what's going on. And I did install that as a dev dependency. It should be installed because I saved it. And now when I run this, okay, to my README, because it might be just off by a little bit on the command. And run that. Oh, this was the thing I needed to use Yarn for. I don't know what it is about. I don't know what it is I'm missing, but Yarn just like sugarcoats this and makes it so you could just run whatever's in bin just a little bit easier, and it's gonna work. So I had to reach for Yarn. I had to cheat. There it goes. Okay, what did this do? Git status. I've been running GS. That's just an alias for git status. Little dev tool there. Just did a Z shell alias. And I've got some changes in my package lock, my package JSON, and my app.js. I know the package stuff is actually from it's from some other stuff. Oh, you know what's funny? I just remembered I didn't run this thing. I didn't upgrade my packages, so nothing's going to work until I do this. So now I'm just doing an npm install, saving the actual dependencies, each of those 3 libraries at version 8. And that should be good. So now let's see if our app works. I meant to do that first and show you that the app didn't work because something broke. But I might have to restart my dev server. Let me do that. Oh, it wasn't running. Did I get confused in I must have. Start. Yeah, so if I installed the packages first without running the code mod, it would have said, hey, you've got an import from side panel that's not working. And that's something back in the upgrade guys. Now this is working. And if I go back to the upgrade and I look for side panel, we had actually removed default exports. So if I look at the git status, it'll all become very clear. Git or git diff. There's that stuff. How do you go past this? More scrolling I wanted. Status. Git add package lock, git diff and now. Cool. There we go. So the code mod only had one thing to do on this very simple example, but it went and it found this import of side panel that was pulling it in, not in the curly braces, destructuring it, but as a default. When it's at that top level, that's a default export. And it moved it into those curly braces as a named export. So we got rid of all of our default exports across all of our components. We had stopped doing that, and I don't even care what the reason was. We had a reason, and everything is a named export now from whatever package. So our code mod went and updated those imports. Now take a step back and imagine you have a project that you're using, maybe using Chakra, maybe using Material UI, maybe you have your own design system, whatever company you work at, you're using all these components. And at some point you got a lot of them, you got a lot of usages. And if they say, hey, we got a new version, you got to change where you import things from. If you have to go do that manually across all the usages, that is not the most fun job in the world. That is just completely tedious. And you'll go and you'll do it, and you'll copy and paste, and you'll have to hand edit. And then it's just like, after maybe 15 minutes to an hour, you're like, okay, it's all working and fine. I updated this. And that's just for imports. Imagine you've got to update the API usage. Maybe the JSX structure changed. Maybe which component you use altogether has changed. And we still have some things like that where you have developer intervention required and designer intervention required. But if we can take all the simple things like imports or mapping A to B of this API to this API and just use a code mod for that, it's really nice. And then our upgrade guide says, just run the code mod. The impact is pretty much nothing for everybody. And that's really beautiful. And it makes it so people can update their version really easily. For us on our side of the fence, it's like we have less support, people are happier. And they use the latest version without any issues. That's really nice, because not everybody's on the latest version. Let's just be honest. Dependencies are sometimes really out of date. So this is a really nice, easy way to reduce friction on things that should be easy. Comods are great for that. All right, what was I going to do next? README. Let's look at the README. So we did this. Okay. Let's go back to the code. Let's look at the code a little bit. All right, so back to the source file. Something else I kind of hate as a developer is like, should it be this way or that way? And one of those things, and we have this right now we haven't solved this yet, actually. We have cases where people are importing from the main package like this, or labs or preview, it doesn't matter. And they're just importing from that package, and they're importing the buttons and these other things. And that looks fine. But then if you look here at this one's got that, I'll just show you this real quick. This works as well. This works just as well. But you can also go and say, hey, I want to pull it from this, we call it /import. There's a more technical term for it, but we call it /import. And you can do that. And it happens that everything on our main package, Canvas Kit React, Canvas Kit Preview React, and Canvas Kit Labs React, they all have these /imports now. And the reason why we did that was because of tree shaking. Now, I think it was that, but we did find, and I don't know all the insides and outs of this because it's another area of dev tooling that I'm not an expert in, but when it comes to tree shaking, and what tree shaking is when you compile all your code, you bundle it all up. There's all these things in node modules that you're not using. Do they go away, or do they get bundled in your package? You end up with 10 megabytes being sent to the client and very unhappy users, especially if they're on poor connections and slower computers or whatever. Do you do tree shaking properly? And some tools just work, and you don't need to do the /imports. Some tools doing the /imports helps. So this is one of those things where like we push people to do /imports, but we haven't required it. Maybe because their dev tools their build just does it. The tree shaking fine regardless. I don't know. So this is one of those like, which way should I do it? And if we want to nudge people in the right direction, how do we do that kind of situations? And I thought, hey, why don't we break out that tool ESLint and write a rule for this? So I'm going to flip over to this really awesome tool, and I'm going to teach you all about how code is compiled and static analysis works in just, let's see if I can do it in 3 minutes, like the super skinny version of this, like the onboarding guide that gives you what you need to know to figure everything else out for yourself really easily. There's this really awesome website, astexplorer.net. Go to it. Play with it, paste code into it. I have it here, and I put in the simplest of code, just a variable. Const favorite ice cream equals cookies and cream in a string. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in an AST. So stepping back from the AST, all our tools do this, whether it's, frankly, it's not just JavaScript, Java, JavaScript, C, they all go through these steps of taking code that's just this text file and turning it into something the computer can understand. And the first step is it breaks them into parts. Const, favorite ice cream, equals. These are different characters that have different meaning, or they're collections of characters. Keywords like const, an operator like equals, a string, a quote to indicate a string. It takes each of these things, and based on the rules of the language, it says, hey, I've got all these things that, oh, this is a token, this is a token, this is a token. This is too, and then the value inside of it is a token, and it tokenizes these things, breaks it out into these little chunks. But then to do something with that, it needs a way to kind of like apply order to it, based again on the rules of the language. And this is where it needs a data structure to say, like, this is the relationship of how these tokens work with each other. Like, we know this is a variable declaration, but how do you break that down, and what's the right structure for this? Turns out that structure is plain old tree. If you've never done much with trees, I think everyone has done something with trees, because if you've worked with a DOM, that thing's a tree. It's just having one parent that has any number of children, and those children have children, and then those children have children. At some point, they don't have children. And on each element, like think of a head tag. You can have attributes, properties on it. And then you have children inside of that, like a title or a meta tag. And those are just different children off of the head tag. So we've all worked with trees. We're going to look at the tree for this, and it's going to become pretty clear pretty quickly. And real quick, it turns out that a JSON or JavaScript object, that's a tree. I didn't think about it like a tree for a long time. And then I realized, wait, it's a tree. There's like this root node here. That's the whole thing. And then there's these children like type and start. And some of these like body have their own children. Turns out that's an array of other objects. It's a tree. So this awesome tool, ASC Explorer, takes any code you give it and just gives you the tree. Now I'm going to get off the JSON for a moment and give it a more usable view. It's got this tree view here. And pro tip, click hide everything except for hide types. Leave the type keys. This is the same thing as the JavaScript view or the JSON view, except it's giving these like little like type hints in front of the object literals to say what type these nodes are. So in JavaScript and pretty much any language, it's all the ASCs look similar across all the languages. JavaScript might have a different way of calling it, I don't know, identifier, no, variable declarator might be different, or some of these properties might be named differently, but the structure of an AST is the same in any language, which is pretty cool. And so at the top level, we got a program, and then we got a body. And this is just all your statements at that top level. There's just one thing in this array. It's a variable declaration. That's it. And inside of that, it's got two things. It's got so there's three type of properties I'll see in these nodes. One is its type. What type is it? One is I forgot what I called these before, but they're basically things to describe that node. They're descriptor. I call them descriptors. And kind is that descriptor. And if I change const to just var, the kind is now var. Change it to let. I wonder what that'll be. Kind is let. So those are just describing that node. And then it can have children. Not everything has children, but if they do, it can be, it's usually an array. It's not always an array. Sometimes it's a single node, but if it can be more than one thing, like maybe you define multiple variables in a let or a const and they're just listed out, you can do that. There would be more than one here. So there's an array here, and that's the variable declarator. It's actually declaring and assigning to it. And there we've got an ID, an identifier, and that's favorite ice cream. And then there's a init property, and that is a child, which is a string literal. Type literal value is cookies and cream. This is what you're going to see in ASTs over and over and over again. This very simple example is just going to be repeated in much more complex code. It's just going to be more deeply nested and all of that. So with all that said, let's go back to our code and pull it in. And this is what I do when I'm writing lint rules, is I just go and grab some code. I can grab all of it. I'm just going to grab these things because they're a good place to start. And I've brought over the imports, and the tree went and updated over on the right. Cool thing, I can click anywhere in here on the left, and it's going to like highlight the thing on the right, and vice versa. If I click on this, if I click on something here, it's gonna click on one of these, the right node, like this import declaration, and highlight the first line there. So it's a really good way to like navigate and find stuff. So now we're looking at this tree. What are we doing with imports? We've got import declarations instead of those variable declarations. And the thing we're looking for is like, what's the part we care about? And it's the string value here. And is it just this, or does it have like this other thing here? That's what we're curious about. And if we're trying to find this, because what I want to do with this rule is look for all the cases where we just have no slash import. It's just that root package, and then say something about it. And that's what lint rules all do, is they look for a pattern and then they say, hey, don't do this. Here's why. So there's something else here. There's a couple things to configure with ASC Explorer to go further now. And we can configure how it's, what's this called? This is not the transformer. This is the parser. Yeah. And the one we want here is ESLint parser. I check my node modules or my package lock JSON, package lock JSON, and it's literally at Babel ESLint parser that is being used by ESLint right now. So that's the one we want. And there's this other cool thing that you can do called a transform. In this case, oh my God, did you see that? Did anyone see this? Did anyone see?
It's coming through.
This artifact, this happened to me 4 years ago in front of 500 people, and it got really weird. Let's see if it gets weirder. There's something up here. And I haven't been running this for very long. My God, there's a weird artifacting. Okay, all right, sorry. All right, so you click on this transform. You can pick ESLint V8. That's the current version, and it will load up the boilerplate for a rule. And oh my God, it went and it actually remembered. All right, I gotta like do something here. I gotta like I gotta delete this. I'm just gonna delete that. All right, so it actually like pulled from local storage, I think, when I live coded earlier. All right, so here's how it works. Ignore what you just saw there for a moment. You have the rule in the bottom left now, and then you've got the output of the rule on the right, and it's actually saying the lint rule was not fired, and there's no fixed output, or it's basically unchanged. And the nice thing is it gives you this boilerplate here. It actually gives you an example. I forget what it was. And the way the rule works is that ESLint handles all that tree business under the hood. And it actually, what it does is it says it takes everything, turns into a tree, kind of like what we already see on the right, top right. And then it walks the tree. It just walks the tree, goes across every single node. Doesn't even matter if it's breadth first or depth first. I don't even care. It does that for us. And then it runs all the rules that are configured to run. And it doesn't matter if the rule is a core rule or a plugin rule, like the one you wrote, it's going to run it equally. And the way that works is anytime it's on a node, it says, hey, what are all the rules that are interested in this type of node? So I think that's called the visitor pattern. And this first part here doesn't matter too much. This part is the key part. Every lint rule exports a function. And there's a little bit of boilerplate here, export function create with a context, and then you return an object literal in that function. And this can have any number of keys. So you can look for different types of node types. But usually you're looking for one. And in this case, we are going to look for, ignore it says import declaration. What are we looking for? We're looking for this statement here. We could look for literal. This is where the thing is happening, but that's too like we're gonna have string literals everywhere. We don't care about every string literal. We care about the case where we have an import declaration. So you look for what's that pattern I'm after. I'm looking for import declarations, and I'm looking for where they have a string literal that has a certain value. That's the problem you're solving in any ESLint rules. What's that pattern I care about? I'm looking for this type of node, and then do I have to check its children? Do I have to look at certain values, compare them against certain things? That's pretty much what we're going to do. So I have import declaration here. So that's what's going to find all the import declarations. All the imports, this one, the one for React, they're all going to get passed in this function. Now we got to do something smart with it. So there's always an if here, usually an if of some kind. There's always logic here to say, we got a filter now. Okay, if node dot, what do we care about? Okay, so we're dealing with this import declaration node, and now we're looking at, we can look at the specifiers. What are the specifiers? Oh, those are the named imports, like primary button. We don't care about those in this case. Sometimes we do. And it's this source. It's the source here. This is where that string literal is. So we go node.source. We're going into a property on the tree, and there's a value in raw. I don't think we care about raw. I think the value is closer to what we want. It doesn't have any slashes or whatever. It's value. And if that equals, what's the value here? If it equals, if it's just this thing, if it's just this thing, this is what we care about. Oh, hang on. Let me just do something. No, I'll do this. If I do that, then we need to say something. We found something. We need to say something. And this is where we're going to use context.report. And honestly, I forgot exactly the parameters for this. I'm going to go in, what was it? Context.report. Oh, wait, I'm going to just go to their docs. Working with plugins. Text. By the way, this is literally pulling like, there's the boilerplate there in their docs. Where's context.report? Where is it? It's not in here. All right, I'm gonna search user search. Context.report. Working with rules. There we go. Not the deprecated one. This one. Okay, cool. context.report. I think I just saw it here. Descriptor. Maybe it is. Okay, so we got a message and then the node. And then I think that's all we need. I think that's all we need. So the context and the node, those are the two things we care about. Okay, cool. All right, so the context and the boilerplate already had that. I deleted it. I should have done that completely. So the context, wait, it said the message and the node. Okay. Use / imports instead. So let's just do that actually. Does that work? Nope. We need to add a node. Node must be provided. And then this could be, let's just put the node here, the node that we found. Does that work? Well, linting, node must be an object. That node's there, context.report. No, we have to return it. Is that it? All right, hang on. What'd I do? I'm gonna go to my README. All right. There it is. It's this right here. If that, do that. It's right there. Context report. Oh, it's in the object literal. That's why. Oh, there it is. There it is. Message that. I should have seen it from the docs. Node is that. And just close it up. Cool. That's it. All right. We ran our first rule. And it says use / imports instead. And it's pointing to import at 3.1. Which I think is this right here, line 3.1. So we want to be more specific. Simple thing here. What's the actual node? It's not actually the part where we want to call attention to can be, again, how we look down node.source.value. We can look that down and it's actually going to be the source itself. I don't think it's the value. Let's see if that, is that right? It's going to be node : node source because it was doing a shorthand property there. There we go. Cool. So now when we run the linter, when we run ESLint, it's going to say, hey, right here on this value here, this is what our problem is. And there might be a way to like highlight the whole thing. We don't need to get into that. But we just wrote an ESLint rule. That was more than 3 minutes. I think the intro was 3 minutes, but we just wrote an ESLint rule. And I've done this with developers where I've sat down and paired and like written their first ESLint rule in an hour. And I've asked them like, how, like, is that hard? And they're like, no, it's pretty easy. And I'm not sure saying everything's easy, but it's like, it's not as hard as people might think it is. And I keep finding that with almost everything that has good docs. I'll say that suffix, that if it's got good docs, it definitely is not as bad as you think. And sometimes it's like pretty, like it's pretty straightforward and sometimes pretty fun. I've written a bunch of ESLint rules and every time it's like this very small, like micro programming problem that is self-contained and frankly, going from the world of app dev and running Dockers and all the things that can go wrong, it's kind of like, oh, I just get to play in the sandbox and just play in this little area. And putting this really into practice, it's you kind of proof it out into AST Explorer. You got this rule now, like, okay, now I want to use it. You're going to go and you bring that in your project. You don't have to publish it to NPM. You can set it up locally. I actually have like a bunch of, I practiced this earlier, but there's like, I don't think I need to walk through all of it. But you can set up the rule to work locally. And I'll just show you real quick what that looks like to give you an idea, just like how many moving pieces there are. If I go to our repo, I'm just going to go to our GitHub and I'm going to show you two things. I'm going to show you the package JSON. I'm pretty sure it's in here. Excellent. Okay, cool. Yeah. So in here, we've got a couple things. Well, there's one thing in particular. We have these custom rules and they're pointing to a file path. So that's how you say, hey, I've got this dev dependency that's just a local file. And that's actually handy for more than just ESLint. You can just do that for anything. Kind of treat this thing as a module. So in utils, custom lint rules, that's where we've got our rules. We've got our ESLint config right here. If I look for custom, there it is again. So we register as a plugin in our ESLint config. And then we opt into any rules we want to enable. Oh, hey, We have one for use ck/imports. This is actually an internal rule. I'm actually considering like, hey, I think we should make this rule and export it, make it exportable for everybody else and publish it as an ESLint package. So all our consumers can opt into that rule if they want to apply it to their project. So it turns out we actually have this in our project and some other things here. Restricted imports, that's a funny one. Kind of reminds me of some of the other ones I showed you. And then finally, in the third piece is basically what I already showed you. If I go into utils, there's a custom lint rules thing here. And you can have a package JSON. I actually tried this without a package JSON. It works. You don't actually need that. You just need like an index.js. And in this case, we've got it broken out into two different rules, but you just have this module exports and object literal with rules and then any number of rules there. And each of these things is those functions that I showed you how to write. So you can write an ESLint package, plugin, whatever you want, and do that locally on your project. And stepping back, the case where it's come up with like this should be an ESLint rule is often in code review. And I remember asking a developer to change some code, and he's like, well, this is really kind of mundane. Like, do you really want me to change it? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you know, you really should automate this. And I'm like, you're right. And I'm like, could you still change it? And he did, but it clicked for me at that moment. And this is years ago now. And I was like, wow, anytime I have feedback that can be automated, formatting, conventions, things that like they always apply. And especially if they come up more than once, like if it can be automated and it comes up more than once, like ding, 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 should probably first actually find an ESLint rule that already exists, because usually that is the case. Usually there's already an ESLint rule. It might be in core, it might be in a plugin. It might be something you have to configure with a plugin that's a flexible rule. Because that whole thing with /imports, I wrote a very hard-coded rule that was specific to a single import. But that itself could be a very generic rule where you configure what are the packages that you should use slashes on. Done. That could be a plugin that anybody could publish to npm. I don't know if I will. I'm just going to start with something I need. I'm gonna be a little lazy about that, but there's problems everywhere like that and I promise you on your own project, it's kind of happening left or right. And once you start looking through the lens of like, can I automate this? Does this come up more than once? You go to automate it. It's not just for code review, because now anytime somebody joins the team, they just start writing code and they haven't even talked to you. They haven't even put up code in a PR, and they trip over that thing that you don't want to happen. It's going to tell them in their editor. And that is the best feedback loop of all, like just telling them as they type it, oh, we don't do that. Oh, because I should do this. Okay. So I love ESLint rules for that. It is like one of the best places to get started with developer tooling and making things better. There's always opportunities, even like 8 or 9 years since it was launched, there's still tons of opportunities to write new rules. And there's always things that are going to be specific to your project, like how you import things on your library or whatever. It's always going to come up. Cool. There's, how far are we at? We're in an hour. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to roll the dice on something. So this is stepping back to React finally. And I was like, okay, I'm going to upgrade React. So let's upgrade React and see what that developer experience looks like. And while I do this, I'm just going to say something I found as I go as a developer that I've sort of made part of my practice is whenever I do something as a developer that doesn't go the way I expect, I kind of write down a little note of like, that didn't go the way it should. And I write down why. Like the docs told me the wrong thing, or the docs didn't make it clear, or I didn't understand something was missing or something was wrong. I write it down. That's kind of like it's kind of like turns into this little backlog of like things you can do for the developer experience, or that somebody else should do. Is potentially feedback you should give somebody like me on their project. So we're going to do something else. We're going to bump React to 18. So install React. So I'm just going to do this off the top of my head, -s, React at, oh, there it is. React at 18, React DOM at 18. Cool. We're going to bump those dependencies. All right, they're bumped. How's our package? It's compiled with errors. It is unhappy. Resize, I don't actually know what these errors mean. I'm going to rerun this, see what it did with me. Sometimes like those hot module reloads are just weird and they don't actually work. I don't trust this. How did that work? That worked? No, I'm confused. Does anyone know why I'd be confused? If I went from 17 to 18, should things still work? I'll give you a hint. It's this thing.
Isn't it still going to work? It's just going to give you some errors in the console.
Yeah. Yes, so. Maybe. Funny thing is, it didn't give me any errors. I think it might be because
What about in your browser console?
this is still 17. Oh, good question. Thank you. Yes, thank you for saying something. All right. And that's on the wrong screen. Let me bring it over here. Hey, you got it. All right, React DOM render is no longer supported in React 18. Somehow it didn't error. It was really kind about that. It only threw a warning. Use React create root instead. Okay. This is what I was going for. Thank you for pointing that out and getting me on track. Looks like I got another error that I should look into for my own stuff. Icon stuff. Okay, cool. So here's what I did. I went to the React docs, and somebody tell me if I'm reading this wrong, but react.js.org. I went here. I'm like, okay, let's go upgrade 18. What was the grade? Oh, that's weird. Hang on. React 18 upgrade. There's an upgrade guide that I couldn't find. The blog post. Here it is. All right, so it's a blog post from March this year. All right, this is what tripped me. This is like just one of those examples. How to upgrade React 18. And I look through this, and it just says to install the latest version of React. And if you do this, is it going to update the package JSON? Does anyone know? Does that change anything?
Now without specifying at latest.
Yeah, I mean at latest, or yeah, because it's going to say, hey, this is already installed. You're not saying at latest. I don't know, but I think you might also have to specify -s.
Yeah, you have to save.
Yeah, you have to save it, -s or yeah, -s save, something like that. So that was weird. I was like, whoa, this is like not quite exactly what you want. And you want to specify the version to make, or at latest, to make sure it's the latest version of React, right? So that caught me. And there's things like this all over the place on the web with React, JavaScript, MDN. There's lots of gaps everywhere. I'm just like, I find them every day. And it's like, I'm internally frustrated all the time because I don't have enough time to go and figure those things out, because I need to do the job I'm trying to do each day. And I just need to I figure out what I need to do, get past it. So if you ever want to kind of level up as a developer, or just give back, when you find those problems, write them down. And then when it's Friday afternoon, you got some time, or you finish the story and, there's nothing too important in the backlog, go and carve out some time and see if you can improve the docs or whatever. Okay, so this is what changed. Updates to client rendering APIs. Back to the code mod situation. Here's where I want to go wild. I want to write a code mod that I have not practiced before. So before is this, and after is this. And this is pretty simple. And if I'm just doing something for my project, I'm just going to go and make the changes. But I don't know. I kind of like React. I kind of like people that use React, and I kind of like it to be easier to do things that shouldn't take, I don't know, 2 minutes to do a bunch of typing. I think it should just be run a script. And I went looking, or let's go looking. Is there a React code mod for this? Look for React code mod. Oh, there is on the React.js project. And it's really old. So it hasn't been updated in over 2 years. So there's no code mod for this. There actually, I think I looked, and there was a code mod for upgrading a previous version of React way back when, but this just hasn't been touched. And so the next thought is okay, is there, well, there's PRs going up. It's just not getting maintained. So there's an opportunity if somebody really wanted to roll up their sleeves to say, hey, I want to help out seeing some of these things. Oh, there's the PR to update 16 to 17. And yeah, it's doing some stuff. Let's do some stuff. Let's basically do that, but let's do the 18 version of it. And let's see what that looks like in ASC Explorer. If you got questions, please speak up. I'm just going to keep having fun with this and sharing different things. So parser, let's hear. Okay, so the tool for this is also from Facebook. There's actually 2 tools. And the first one that everybody uses is JS Code Shift. Maybe there's more than one, but JS Code Shift is the one we care about. I think the thing we want is Babel. parser. I can't remember. I don't think it matters too much. Sometimes, like, I think most of these parsers will work, or at least half of them, but the transform is different. And that's going to be not TypeScript. Nope. It's going to be JS code shift. And we're going to change the code out here. We're going to bring in this code here. And this is like basically everybody's got something like this. I'm going to get rid of the stuff that doesn't matter just to make it a little simpler. And this is the code that's going to need to change. And why is it not like that? Oh, it switched this to recast for some reason. I don't know how I did that. Back to Babel parser. I got that artifacting happening again. Okay, cool. So fun. This is what I meant by it's got fun examples. When you pick a transform, it's going to pre-fill a transform, and same thing for ESLint rule if you don't do what I did in NukeIt. And in this case, it's taking all the identifiers, all the here it's looking for, there's the thing where it's doing that visitor pattern again. It's looking for all identifiers, and it's just reversing the strings and renaming everything backwards. So this definitely is not, it's a nonsense code mod and on purpose. So there's some boilerplate here. Again, we've got a function that returns something else. This is where it starts to look a little different from ESLint, but here's a couple of key things. It's returning this transformer function. It's got this convention of putting everything on J, and that's the JS code shift API where you do things with things. And so you take J, it kind of reminds me of jQuery a little bit, the way it does things, but you pass in a file source, and then you find stuff. And every command is pretty much the same as this. And this is where you say, hey, I want to find a certain node type. And it's saying, hey, find me all the types that match j.identifier. So what do we need to convert? If we go back to this, before and after, we need to change, hey, we need to change an import. We need to change render and create root to React DOM and React DOM client. Let's go and do that. And I'm going to bring this over. Oh, this is key. I'm going to grab, I should just have this whole thing. I should just make this my code example. I'm just going to grab this whole thing and bring it back to AC Explorer. And then I'm going to, yeah, so this is good. It's not happy because things have already been declared. So I'm going to comment out some lines. And then it'll be happy. Just so we have a reference. Because what we want is for the bottom right to basically be that commented out code if we do this right. So I'm going to take out some of this stuff. I'm just going to comment this out. Place with, well, we're going to have to do something. Let me comment this and that and that. Maybe there's something there we want to learn from. All right. So what do we need to look for? We definitely need to look for imports. And if you think of it something before I do, please shout it out. We need to look for import declarations. What do we need to do with that? What are we looking for? We need to find React DOM. All imports with React DOM. It's actually kind of similar to our previous our ESLint rule. So we need to find a j.import declaration. And then for each path. I don't think we need to for each anything here. I think we need to find again, maybe, or it's a way to get. And I might need to pull up JS code shift API right here, JS code shift. I haven't looked at this in a bit. Cool. There's no website. It's just a README. All right, great. I love that. That find. All right, so find variable declared. Oh, there's like utilities. Oh, cool. It might have like find imports or something like that. I don't know if I'm going to get the best IntelliSense with or code suggestions with doing this where I am doing it. But let's see here. We got JS code shift. We got find. Is there like, yeah, I know we can find again, and there's also get. Told you we're going to go wild and do something I have no idea what I'm doing. I will say this is definitely easier in VS Code. I've done this in VS Code, and like it kind of like comes to you through like suggestion, not even using Copilot. It just comes to you much quickly. We're looking for import declarations, and then we need to get its source value, right? Find that, and then dot. what are we doing with that? Do we have to pass in the path? No, path gives us, oh, the path gives us that thing. Maybe the path is what we want. Dot, find that. No, actually, maybe for each is what we want. Maybe for each it. Maybe it's not the ideal way to do it. I'll do it. I don't need to, we can iterate even if we don't need to iterate for each path. And then we got a function. And then we could say, hey, I think this, oh my gosh, this example is what we need. Path that replaced with, I'm not sure if actually, maybe this is on the import declaration level, we got to go in level deep, but it's gonna be a disaster. But path.node dot is source dot value a thing. Can we do that? No, it got mad. It got mad. It says it does not match string type. Because I think we need to go down the tree a little bit. Because the path is, we got to get down to that other thing. Maybe we just find on this, find that, and then find again. And we're looking for a import declaration. I'm just going to cheat. I'm just going to use string level. This isn't ideal. We should be looking at the source specifically. We find that, and then it wouldn't be source.value, that. Oh my gosh. I think I might have not done anything. Split, reverse, join. We actually need to replace, oh, j.identifier. It's not replacing it with an identifier. It's replacing it with, no, it's replacing it with an identifier. And there should be some logic. So hang on. Can we if this? We'll try a couple more things, then we'll just eject and be like, all right, we'll do this another time. But path dot node dot value equal to react DOM. I want to do that filtering, and then if that's the case, then we should be doing that. Here, is that gonna do things? Oh, don't save it. Nope. Oh, there it goes. There are auto formats. Okay, so if it's that, we actually don't want to reverse anything. We want to replace it with, we give this react DOM, right? I know somebody's gonna have the answer for me in a moment. I just know it. Maybe they're looking at the docs. I want to pull this up by side. All right. It's not like there's not a get. Dot find. You find something, you rename to, oh, that's sort of naming a variable declarator. I wonder if there's like a find import declaration. Because that would be handy. And then find an import declaration. Oh, wait, what? No, it's more like it's not the import declaration itself. So this is saying you find variable declarators foo. So that's finding all the variables named foo. That's a nice utility, but I don't know if we have one for this. So the other thing I'll do, legit, is I will go and I'll look at code mods and, oh, hey, whoa, hey, how about that? They have this right here, root.find. They're doing this root thing. They're looking up the root at something for something else, not just finding on nodes. JLiteral place with, this is probably a lot closer to what we need. Okay. So we've got a way of finding the variable declarations. Oh, you can pass in a matcher. Oh my gosh, that's really convenient. Let's do that. Okay. So we've got this whole thing here. I think this is, oh my gosh, this is literally what we want. Okay, I should have, this is frankly what you end up doing. You end up taking a code mod that already exists and be like, all right, it's going to mutate it. And we have a bunch of code mods in Canvas Kit that I talked about, but like a lot of them are literally just duplicating the other things. And we've extracted a couple of utilities and we have some more cleanup to do. But this is 90% of code mods. Like you write the first one and you're like, okay, what do I need to do? And once you figure out that one thing of like, oh, I'm updating an import, it becomes this thing you do a bunch of times anytime that type of thing changes. So I'm just going to paste what I pulled out of there here. And I think this part goes sort of here with j dot import declarate comma, and then literal, and then I want React DOM to be here. So if I find React DOM, all right, something's still unhappy. That's okay. I'm gonna make this bigger again. This is going, I know this is going to become React DOM / client. And there might be a case where we still need to import from React DOM and not do the client. That we're not going to worry about that just yet. But
Goes in parenthesis line 22.
oh, what'd you see? 22? Thank you. I knew something like that. Hey, look at that. Look at that. All right, we updated React DOM to React client. Renders now create root. Okay. So we found this import declaration. We did this. And I wonder if we can chain off this, if it's gonna, or if there's something else we need to do. I don't know if this is gonna work. So this is where we need to find the j dot. This is the named import. Let me click on it. If I click here, it gives me the thing. And this is the specifiers. It's on the import declaration. It's the specifiers. It's the import specifier. J dot import specifier. We can give it a matching thing. Like this is the object we care about, and it's the, what is it? Imported. Local is if you alias it or not, doesn't matter. Imported name. So imported name, and that would be render. Cool. But we didn't do anything with that. We found it, and then we do I think we actually just do the same thing we did here, sort of. About that. Get rid of these console logs. Oh, that's nice for debugging if you're running this on VS Code. Cool. So we got that, and we're going to change render to create root. I wasn't expecting this to work because I think I need to go back up the tree a little bit. And I'm going to cheat. I'm going to do this. No, that says that. Follow that find. I think there's a way to go back up the tree and say dot parent or something like that. JS code shift. Path dot parent. Return. Okay, cool. I think. Where do they use that? They don't say here. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we do this with some of my code mods. I'm gonna try something here. I'm gonna try path. I'm gonna try instead of returning that node, because I think that's what it's working off of. So when it went into the string value here, it's needs to go back up a level. So I'm gonna try return path dot parent. Where is it? Node path? No, path. What is path? Oh yeah, you can do that. You can do call static size exceeded if you mess it up wrong. Yes, I definitely did that. Turn node path up there. I think you do need to return the node if you're doing the replace. You do need to do this. I think I'll call it here. There's more to do. It's my first time taking a stab at that. Writing one from almost complete scratch. But yeah, so like this is basically what you're doing. I'm gonna take this part off. That's actually this part doesn't matter too much, but I'm gonna take that off. This is what you're doing. You're doing that visitor pattern thing. We're saying, hey, find these node types, keying in on a certain node type based on the file source, and the file source is the entire file. Every file gets passed through here, and you have access to the whole file too. You can look for things, and then you find a pattern. You find an import declaration that looks like this. and then you find something that's a little child on it, like the literal, and then you update something using like a replace. I don't love JS code shift. I actually kind of like think there could be a much better API. Now I haven't vetted this yet, but I want to say there's something really promising called ASTX, and I should have looked for that in NPM because who knows what I'm getting. And actually I like started to get up discussion on my project a year ago. I'm like, hey, like what if we like had something more declarative? And I proposed some different APIs, but and I did some research and I found this project, this thing called Code Mod Squad. It's an Oregon GitHub. This one person is doing most of it, and he's doing some pretty cool stuff. Andy Edwards, and there's a bunch of things here. There's some JS code shift stuff. There's some code mods here for some different things. And then I found this, and I've been following along, and it's active right now. He took a little break, but he's back to it. And there's this really cool, let me find the example. There's this really cool idea of what if you could translate your code from this to this and basically do it declaratively. So in this case, old stuff, ARM remove directory old stuff is becoming remove directory new stuff with true here, or this thing is here, and it's moving true into like an object, an options object. And he's come up with this template-based syntax. And that was what I was thinking, like, there needs to be like some type of template-based syntax where you can just write the code you have, templatize a little bit of it, and then write the new code. And it goes and parses both, figures out the tree structures, and does a little diff and maps things over without you having to write all that other stuff I was doing in JS code shift, and that like kind of weird, you know, I don't, it's just not intuitive for me the way it is. And he's done that. And he made it so you can run it through the command line, and you can also define it this way. Now, this is where I'm at. As I saw this, I'm like, I'm going to try this next. I'm going to try taking some of the code mods we already have and seeing if I can implement them in ASTX using this template syntax, where you have these dollars and you map certain things over, look for this pattern, make it this pattern. I did find one gotcha that I was like really stumped on how to solve when I was thinking about this myself was, how do you do it when you have conditionals and branching logic? Because it's always happening. Not always, but it happens a lot. And he has that. I know he's got a way to define functions and to have those things get applied using the template syntax. I don't know how robust it is, but I'm going to try that out. And I think this is the future of writing code mods, whether it's ACX or something like it, is going to be define these things declaratively. We shouldn't have to like write. If you look at some of the code mods that are in our library and Canvas Kit, some of them are like 100 lines. And they're not that hard. There's just a bunch of like, they're very, very verbose. So yeah, that's what I had today. I just want to like say like writing tools is a lot of fun. It's definitely helped me in my career. It's definitely helped my team. It's definitely helped me that others on my team have done it. And it's been fun for me to do it. It's definitely helped me get promotions and opportunities, and definitely talking about it and sharing it has led to new job roles that I've enjoyed. And the current one I'm in, talking about testing utilities was a big part of what got me into it. Yeah, that's what I got. Thanks for hanging out, bearing with me while I flailed at writing a code mod, but that's the real stuff right there.
Great. Thank you, Will. That was a lot of fun, actually. I've been wanting to write some code mods, but like some of my code I have is very scary, so I try not to touch things too much.
This is out of date. Don't tweet me there.
What is tweet?
What is what?
What is tweet?
What is tweet?
Yeah, you know, that's some archaic thing that we used to do, right? We don't tweet anymore.
Yeah. Is somebody else on, are any of you on some other platform doing things there now? It's fun because I know Eli through Twitter. I know him from all the things he shares there.
Yeah.
Mostly.
I mean, LinkedIn. If I was gonna like switch platforms, I'd probably be going to like another one that like I'm already established on somewhat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've looked at going to checking out Mastodon, but uh, I think the way that they decentralized it, where you have it's kind of like Slack, where you have to find a community and join, makes it a little harder for discovery.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm like that. And yeah, you join a server and I'm like, well, can you like chat with people on other servers? And can you do like cross server raids? And it reminded me of Warcraft.
Yeah. Yeah, and they do
Twitch
that type of
and
thing on Twitch now. Yeah.
Discord.
Yeah. I'm on Twitter at Will Klein _. Don't miss the underscore, you'll get spam from somewhere else. But I was actually working on my website yesterday. I'm gonna get that back up. I was playing around with Astro, another dev tool. I was playing with like 5 different dev tools in the last 4 days that I hadn't played with before. Astro was one of them. So far, so good. What's everyone's favorite dev tools? Tell me. I need to stop talking and hear what you all have to share with me.
Terminal.
Terminal, that's your command line.
Yeah.
Good old terminal. Yeah.
I mean, I use iTerm, but someone was showing me a new terminal just the other day. I've defined it. It's not the same one that you had. It was someone at work. Let me see what I can find.
I've definitely seen a lot of people moving over to Warp. Were you running Zish in Warp?
Yeah. I think it picked that up. It picked up my Z shell configuration. I don't know because of it pulled the bash or whatever. I don't know. It just picked it up. I've liked it because it does a bunch of things that I know you can configure Z shell to do like pretty much everything I've benefited from, but it just did it out of the box. And there's some other cool things like there's like a way to bookmark blocks and to like copy output or make a permanent, wait, you can make a permalink. Oh my God. So for somebody that likes to document what they're doing and share what they're doing, this is like a dream come true. This is like a documentation or library engineers like kind of dream is like, I can take this command and export it and do some neat things. So there's some cool things about that. I feel like it's pretty readable and does these block things. Every command you run is a block. I haven't found a way to like collapse a block or to hide just a block. You can nuke all your blocks, but there's some things I wonder if it can do yet, but it just looks promising. Requires a sign up is the caveat. Somebody asked me, I think yesterday, like, hey, they asked like, what does everyone think of Warp? I don't know if I want to sign up. I was like, yeah, I actually haven't run that. I have a download from April I have never run. I ran it. And I was like, this is actually great. And you've been using it, Eli?
No, I got some coworkers that are though.
Okay.
And I've been thinking about trying it out because like the code completion and like pulling out the command palettes and stuff like that looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, and like I know it's pulling my Z shell aliases, and I had some themes out of the box, and yeah, I'm still figuring out the ends. I know it's got gotchas. It's definitely going to have trade-offs. Everything does, but so far it's working for me. So I'm going to keep rolling with it. Before that, I was using VS Code's terminal because I work in a lot of different projects. So having the terminals tied to the project just made more mental sense instead of like these tabs with these tabs in 2 different applications. So I'm sort of trading that away, but it's like been a worthwhile trade-off, at least for this type of like single type of work that I've been doing. Yeah.
That's what I've been doing is using, because I have got 4 different projects in VS Code open, and it's nice having all the terminals kind of already be root scoped.
Nice. What are
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool demo there. That's like God mode demoing when you're trying to write a code mod live.
at the end of the day. So I didn't give you the full story, but last night it was like barely any sleep too, because one of our littlest one, our 2-year-old, is like, he was sick and he got his flu vaccine, and it was just a miserable night. And he's okay, but it was just it was not much sleep. So I was like, it's been a rough 24 hours, but I was still like happy to do it and happy to play around with this and try stuff that might not work, and ran out of gas and steam and focus and all that.
I want to check out that it's called ASTX, right?
ASTX, yeah. You've got an AST Explorer, I'm guessing.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
Because I wrote something that takes, for documentation purposes, it'll take a a TypeScript snippet and convert it to JavaScript.
Hmm.
So you don't have to like have a snippet for both. It will just automatically do it for
Oh,
you.
I get you.
Yeah.
Yes. Just
And so
yeah.
I
Oh,
wrote
that's
that,
great.
and it was a combination of using the TypeScript compiler, then a bunch of like really nasty regex to replace some stuff. And I
No,
saw
no.
like you had like I think in the README there, it had an example of converting a require statement to an import statement. And that was like one of the things that was like really nasty in it.
I know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We probably, yeah. I kind of want that for other things. Like we had like all of our docs are like yarn examples. I'm like, I want to just like widgetify that and just like pass the yarn thing that we normally run and have it just output in a click of a button, the npm versus the yarn. Like
Yep.
that's another like it's a command line thing, not JavaScript. It could be, I'm sure it boils down to a tree of some kind. I mean, probably regexable too, but yeah, things like that, right? Like anything that's super tedious, you gotta do a bunch of times for yourself. Like you write these little utilities. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, this is ASTX, yeah, Code Mod Squad on GitHub. And I was gonna email this guy because I just want to tell him like I think he's on the right track with this. And I'm gonna kick the tires. My hope is that it like just works. But if like I don't know, I don't think it has a ton of installs or ton of adoption. So like people probably just need to kick the, it's only got how many issues? Yeah, it hasn't had many issues. Nobody's been using this. I think this is super promising. So I'm gonna kick the tires on it and see if I can contribute to it if it's got any issues or things to fix up. But because this looks like the dream. Give me the before and after and just do the magic. I don't want to write code. I want to write the code that writes code, but like not even that much code that writes code. Yeah. Oh, VS Code extensions is another cool tool thing. Yeah, cool tool thing. I have been kind of geeking on VS Code extension development. And that's another one similar to JS CodeShift, really powerful, really widely used in terms of extensions, but I feel like at least their docs could be a lot better.
Yes.
And you've seen, yeah, their API doesn't give me what I want either. Like I don't think there's any utility to it or any sugars to it. And I want something that's more AST oriented. And I'm not sure how AST oriented is. Something like ESLint plugin, I'm pretty sure like it runs a process and like it sort of like does all the work, not in the VS Code extension land. And it just uses the VS Code as the interface to get what it needs and to do what it needs. That seems to be the paradigm with the better extensions. So I'm starting to like just have to resort to looking at other extensions that are already written and seeing how they do different things to figure out what I need to do. Because I want to write some extensions myself. You were looking at that too?
Yeah, I've done a bit of VS Code extension development, and
oh my gosh, tell me more.
Yeah, I can get pretty nasty, especially like if you have to configure everything inside of the package JSON file for your extension.
Yeah,
and so you get these like really nasty JSON trees of like what goes where and what and stuff like that.
Are you talking about the part where like you register what it does, or?
Yeah, like so these I don't remember the names there.